Louisiana Eats is brought to you with major support from Louisiana Fish Fry, a backyard staple for 40 years. Maker of batters, coatings, boils, tartar sauce, cocktail sauce, and more. Let's all Louisiana.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, Poppy.
Hey.
Can you turn up your mic? I can hear you, but not very well.
Okay. There we go. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. Hey, Poppy.
Hi, everybody. This is Poppy Tooker. So in the interest of social distancing, I'm not able to be in our studios right now. Like a lot of businesses and organizations these days, Louisiana Eats finds itself adapting to unprecedented circumstances. I'm a host, exiled from my studio, but that's nothing compared to what our friends in the food industry are dealing with. This coronavirus pandemic has forced everyone from CEOs to small business owners to rethink how they're operating, if they can operate at all. Now that the initial shock is starting to wear off, people are asking, how do we do business when doing business as usual is out of the question? How can we adapt to this constantly changing landscape? Shortly after restaurants were forced to close statewide, filmmakers Jonathan Evans and Marian reached out to me. They had an idea for a documentary that would chronicle how local business leaders, restaurateurs, and service workers are responding during this crisis. Jonathan, Marian, and I have collaborated on videos in the past before, so it wasn't a surprise that they asked me if I would conduct these interviews. I declined. Unfortunately, I'm one of those whose age and pre-existing conditions, remember that little heart attack incident a few years ago, make me a prime candidate for isolation. The project did go forward, though, featuring Louisiana Eats' very own social media maven, Maddie Mulladoo, stepping in to help set up interviews and ask questions. Jonathan and Marian were kind enough to share their raw footage, so Louisiana Eats can continue to provide our listeners with the most current information about this developing situation. In this week's episode, Marv Ammari of Creole Cuisine Restaurant Concepts discusses his commitment to feeding his laid-off staff and their families. Then, Chef Michael Gulotta explains why he chose to shut down all his business operations in their entirety. We'll also hear an interview with Devin De Wulf, who has already become a true hero of this pandemic. First, let's speak with the filmmakers.
My name is Jonathan Evans. I'm the director of the project.
And my name is Marian Gay. I am the producer.
What motivated you all to start this project?
Well, when the order was made to shut down, we started noticing how businesses were adapting. And we thought of you, and we thought we should make a video about it. We pitched the idea and said, let's interview some people and just see what they're going through and hear where they're at.
So you saw all these people in person in this time of social distancing. What measures did y'all take to ensure everybody would be safe?
We talked to every restaurant we went to. We asked them where they felt comfortable being interviewed. We wiped everything down in terms of like the microphones. We had a very small crew. It was just 3 of us, 4 of us usually. And we interviewed people outside. We were fully prepared for people to tell us no. And most people were gracious enough to let us in. So we went and tried to be as respectful as possible to the best of our abilities.
So as the silent observers behind the cameras, were there specific moments that come to mind during these conversations that really stand out to you?
Yeah, listening to the different chefs and restaurant owners talk about how they were having to make decisions on the fly. And, information was changing by the minute, and they would come to one plan and then they would have to completely rework that plan.
So you're getting a multitude of people attacking the same issue in a lot of different ways. Some people are making the decision to go ahead and shut down immediately because they feel that that's what's best. Some people are trying to adapt and are going to take out or walk up. Some people are, like at Toups and Broussard's, they're cooking for their staff and offering free meals. Emily and Alon Shire made deals with Rouse's to sell hummus product. People are nervous and they're not sure what's going to happen next, but they're also in problem-solving mode the entire time. Like, how can we get through the situation right here, right now? Everyone is very passionate about the food they're making, and they are passionate about serving their customers. So I think it's reaffirming this desire to get back and provide jobs for people and also provide food for their customers.
Well, the material you gathered is absolutely really stunning, and I'm thrilled that we can share this over the upcoming weeks with our Louisiana Eats listeners. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, well, thank you, Poppy. You know, we're just here to tell the story of the restaurant industry in New Orleans, which is really vital to our city, and is worth preserving.
That was filmmakers Jonathan Evans and Marian Gay of Very Productive Pictures. You can find their documentary on our website at poppytooker.com. Louisiana Eats senior producer Joe Schreiner joins me now from our studio. He edited the raw interviews we're listening to this week. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Poppy.
So what's first?
We're going to start with an interview with Devin De Wulf,
Krewe of Red Beans founder and longtime friend of Louisiana Eats.
That's right. We had him on the show a couple weeks before Mardi Gras. He spoke to you about the Krew's newest bean parade this year, Feijão, and their annual charity event, the Bean Madness Tournament. Unfortunately, it was one of the casualties of this March Madness we just lived through.
What a disappointment. It's such a clever, only in New Orleans type food event, a Final Four style competition where chefs and restaurants vie to see who makes the best red beans and rice.
In 2019, it raised $8,000 for local nonprofits. This year, of course, just like the NCAA, Bean Madness was canceled over fears about the spread of coronavirus.
Devin's wife, Annalise, works at University Medical Center. One of her workplace stories inspired him to come up with a plan that supports both hospitality and healthcare workers pushed to the brink by the pandemic. Here he is, speaking with Marian Gay about it last week.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what the Krewe of Red Beans is doing in response to this coronavirus time?
Sure. So we were about to do a very elaborate charity red beans tournament with 32 restaurants, and we had to cancel it because of COVID. And then the week after we canceled everything, my wife, who's an ER doctor, would come home from work and tell me about work. And one day she said a nurse had brought cookies to share for everybody in the ER that night. And it was like a game changer morale booster for them. In the ERs especially, but also in the ICUs, their job is normally stressful. So COVID is like a whole other level of stress that they've never seen before in their career. It's definitely the greatest challenge they've ever faced, and they're the ones that are going to save us, presumably. So after she told me about that, the idea hit me, I know a bunch of restaurant owners, and I know that they're struggling. And I know the hospital workers need really good food to boost their morale right now, so let's just connect the dot. And I placed a $60 order of food, a little Brazilian dessert called a brigadeiro, which is really wonderfully shared individually. I sent a little email to my crew members and put it on Instagram and asked for donations so that we could order more food. The first day, $500 came in from my crew members. The second day, $1,500 came in. The third day, it was $3,000. And what I started to do was expand as quickly as I could, because every restaurant in our city is in a life or death battle right now for their business. And New Orleans has so many good restaurants that I would like to try to do something to save them if possible. So we started expanding and more donations started coming in and the word kind of spread out. And instead of doing 60 people getting a dessert at my wife's hospital, we started going to all the hospitals. So yesterday we made about 30 deliveries to 14 different locations in New Orleans, which is covering almost every ER and ICU. And we paid for 1,052 meals yesterday, which is somewhere in the $6,000 to $8,000 range. And we are doing that every single day for as long as humanly possible, aka as long as donations keep coming to us. And to make it slightly even better, we started hiring musicians to be the delivery people because they can safely deliver to each hospital. They know the routine. And obviously they're out of work right now. So it's become a triple bonus situation that is bringing food love to all of these hospital workers in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like you're bringing together all these different networks of people who are struggling in their own way.
I have a weird skill set, and I like making spreadsheets.
So what kinds of impact or response are you seeing as a result of your deliveries from healthcare staff, even the restaurants?
So almost every hospital in New Orleans is being served food by me, or the ERs and the ICUs, which is all of the staff members that work there, not just the doctors, the nurses, the techs, the security, the people who are cleaners. Some of those restaurants or hospitals are getting 2 or 3 deliveries per day because we're getting, it's a 24-hour hospital, so we're feeding the day shift, and then we come back and feed the night shift. And then sometimes we just give them cookies. We periodically get messages that are from nurses or doctors, and they will say things like, "You do not know how much I appreciate this because my day has been so awful, and this is the first time I've eaten today, and the fact that it's delicious food from a really good New Orleans restaurant, it means a lot." And I've heard from a couple different restaurants that have said to me, if not for this order, we would be closed. And I really worry that when they close their doors, they might think they're closing for a day or a week, but that could easily turn into forever. And at the same time, for the hospital workers, COVID is not like a long weekend type of deal, so it's going to be around for a long time, and it's really going to be a long battle. So I would like to feed them the whole time, if possible. The idea is that a hospital worker, when facing the greatest challenge that they've ever had, should be eating not a government-issued food. And we have good food here, so let's deploy that good food. I'll say what's also been amazing is I've gotten message from people. There was a woman who messaged us and said, "My father died." She said, "You're not sending food to this place yet, but I heard about you, and they took really good care. So can you please send him food?" And we did. And then she was just like very happy because even though it's terrible her father had passed away, it was a way that she could show her appreciation to the hospital staff. And I think for the hospital staff, when they're dealing with this thing, they obviously know how many of their patients die. And to receive that pick-me-up, I think, it's going to help them kind of sustain, because we need them to, sustain. So.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to have a way they can do something, because so many people, it's like, you're just supposed to stay inside. What can I do?
Exactly, and this is a way that you're not only helping a hospital worker, you're helping a restaurant, you're helping a musician, all at the same time. And, in times like this, I think it's incumbent upon ourselves to do whatever we can. And, like I said, I hope I keep it going. I don't know how long it'll last because it's seemingly unsustainable to spend $7,000, $8,000 a day on food. But if anybody's listening or watching this and you have a big old pile of money, I'll make really good use of it, and many people will be happy. So, like, obviously things are terrible right now, the worst in my lifetime ever, and that's probably true for everybody. So having a little tiny ray of hope is, I think, a good thing.
That was Krewe of Red Beans founder and local activist, Devin De Wulf. Coming up next, Creole Cuisine Restaurant Concepts CEO Marv Ammari talks about feeding his staff and their families during the coronavirus shutdown. Louisiana Eats returns after a break.
I'm Poppy Tooker, and you're listening to Louisiana Eats, edible content for Louisiana food lovers. Louisiana Eats is brought to you with major support from Camellia Brand, beans done right, a New Orleans tradition since 1923, and Brennan's Restaurant, home of the original breakfast at Brennan's and Flaming Bananas Foster. Gift cards are currently available for purchase, and 25% of the gift card proceeds from the Ralph Brennan Group will benefit displaced staff. For more information, see their website at brennansneworleans.com.
Joe, are you there?
Right here, Poppy.
Oh, good. Senior producer Joe Schreiner's joining me from the studio as we bring you this week's show remotely. If you're just joining us, we've been listening to interviews recently recorded by Jonathan Evans and Marian for their documentary on how the food industry is adapting to the COVID-19 crisis. Joe, what's up next?
We've got a conversation with Marv Ammari, the CEO of Creole Cuisine Restaurant Concepts. It's one of the largest restaurant groups in New Orleans, operating everything from daiquiri shops to fine dining establishments. Probably its most famous restaurant is Broussard's, which just celebrated its 100th anniversary in the French Quarter.
2 weeks ago, Marv Ammari made the decision to lay off approximately 1,300 workers from his more than 24 food and beverage operations. Louisiana Eats' own Maddie Mulladoo spoke with Marv on March the 23rd, shortly after the layoffs.
Hi, Marv. Thank you so much for sitting down with me to discuss Creole Cuisine Restaurant Concepts. How are you feeling, and how are the restaurants dealing with the situation in our state and city right now?
Well, how I'm feeling is a lot of feelings: anger, confused, a lot of things going on in my head, and has been for the last 7-9 days. But this is obviously breaking my heart in a way, just because you got a lot of the staff out there, and we have no idea exactly what the next steps are. It's a fluid conversation, so we're learning things daily and we're adjusting to it. Once the governor announced a closure that affected us, we reacted to it immediately by making tough decisions Wednesday, Thursday last week. So we made decisions to put our staff in a temporary layoff, which is, and I don't know what the number exactly today, it's probably between 1,100, 1,300 staff members. And basically the way we view it in Creole Cuisine, we time it by 3. So we are impacting about 5,000 with their families. And we did that, and we had to sit with them and talk with them. I think we covered 80% of them to explain to them that we needed to save the company, so the company is there when we come back, to reopen these units, restaurants, bar, daiquiri stores. The buildings are there. And that really sucked the energy out of my system, basically from that Monday night, even though we were preparing for it. But once that announcement came in, we went to action. So that was the focus last week. We took a few hours on Sunday to break, and we'll be back today on Monday. Is now we're focusing on trying to feed them and their families on a daily basis. So we're prepared to cook up to 5,000 meals in Broussard's in the French Quarter where we are, and Boulevard in Metairie. Obviously, we'll probably end up helping the 8th District. They do a wonderful job all the time down the street from Broussard's, State Police, Army, first responders there are in the area. So that's the goal. Is we're hoping to do between 4,000 and 5,000 meals every day, and continue to do that till we run out of food or get stopped by the authorities. We support our leaders in the city, the state, and the parishes. We love them and respect their decisions because they're trying to protect the state. Beyond this week, I honestly don't know. We're just going to be dealing with it as it comes. I hope this is going to be a short situation and we're back in business in weeks or maybe a couple of months. If this actually lasts longer, we're watching what's going on in Europe and China, obviously. There's some promising news from China. I'm hearing about 70% is back in production there. But you can't take the industry out of New Orleans. The restaurants, the bars, a lot of entertainment places, if you take them out of New Orleans, there won't be New Orleans. So we're trying to protect it. I've been in touch with a lot of the restaurant leaders, and they all are going through the same thing. So our focus this week, every day, we're going to be at work 7 days a week to feed our people and give them some peace and comfort. And the following week, I guess, we'll react to it as it comes, but we're going to continue to feed them.
Is there anything that you want to see happen or would like help from the citizens or even from the government that you're looking for assistance or help with?
I mean, for now, to be honest with you, in the beginning, I was slightly kind of, I don't know if there's a word easier than anger. I was kind of not quite understanding the move that they did in closing businesses in the beginning, but now it makes all the sense. At the end of the day, we've got to have to get a grip on this because we have, obviously we all know about 29 million people transit that go through the city, so this probably Mardi Gras had affected us a little bit, but I'm glad they kind of limited folks to be around and close these restaurants. Hope that they control it, we move forward. So back to your question, I'm not quite sure what we're looking for outside of actually protection on the streets, looting, crime and those kind of things. But we're going to be here. Hopefully, if this turns to get 1,000 or 2,000 people, we may ask the authorities to come and help us to keep the law in place. And again, when you put food on the table and try to give people a nice hot meal that helps them, that they get out of the house even for that 10 minutes to do a drive-by, pick up and go, and they see their properties, they see their workplace, that it's still there. What it does also, it helps the spirit throughout the folks here today. You guys saw them earlier, cooking and with pleasure to do that food. So I think this is something that we in the state are learning from California, New York, and Nevada, and we're being proactive and not reactive. So I believe the governor, our parish presidents, our mayor have done a wonderful job, and they're going to continue to protect us. So I thank them.
Do you see anything currently, even though there's who knows how long this will last, that you might be starting to think about being prepared for in another situation like this in the future? Is there anything that you're planning on doing in another emergency situation like this?
So I've been in business for 31 years and I have not seen anything like this. This is global. Everybody's scratching their heads. For me, I dealt with Katrina, oil spill, so many evacuation that crashed in 2008. But this is going to be a new one in my book. And I definitely will learn because I'm in a tunnel. So this is going to be ongoing to learn how to prepare, how to have extra liquid in the company, how to make decisions quickly. Again, you have the head and you got the heart. So the brain is telling you what to do and the heart is telling you maybe something different. And I don't want to say I'm glad that we went quick and made decisions, but at the end of the day, you got to protect the company, because the company is a combination of people and buildings. And if you don't protect the company as a whole, the folks won't be back to buildings. So it's a very fun, somebody has to manage it, and you got to put the business hat on. So I have faith, and I connect with the Holy Father every day, in the morning, at night, and I ask for guidance to make the right decision, not just selfishly, but just for the best of the people, us, company, staff, and actually vendors, bankers, and everybody associated with it. So it's a tough kind of situation to be in, to make the right and the best call for all, not for one, not for the family, not for the owners or the investors. We're the first wave that is going to get impacted. We're being impacted now, but since we don't know how long it's going to, take, but this is going to affect construction, it's going to affect car business, it's going to affect so much more. They're going to get it later. I think we'll be getting the benefit in the beginning. Once this is over, everybody's going to be flooding the restaurants, casinos, the bars, and those kind of things. But this is going to be a worldwide effect. We got to protect each other, and New Orleans is a wonderful, beautiful city, and we got to have to make sure it comes back. We have gone through Katrina, and we came back stronger. And I truly feel that people will come together like they have all the time. Folks here are resilient, and they will come back stronger. But for the moment, we got to support locals. Once places start open up, is for us to go and continue to support them and love people.
That was Marv Ammari, CEO of Creole Cuisine Restaurant Concepts, in conversation with Maddie Mulladoo on March the 23rd.
Next, we hear from Al Copeland Jr.
Al is the son of Popeye's founder Al Copeland Sr. and owner of Copeland's of New Orleans, a restaurant chain with locations across the region. Maddie spoke with Al on March 23rd to learn how he'd adjusted business to adapt to the coronavirus shutdown. She started by asking him if he had a disaster plan in place before the crisis hit, and how it relates to another crisis his company faced, Hurricane Katrina.
Well, we are in a hurricane-threatened area here, so we have a hurricane plan, we call it, and it allows everyone to kind of come in and follow certain protocols for the protection of the communities, our employees, and also the ability for us to function remotely. So we engaged that plan immediately, and everybody moved to it right now. I just left my office and there's not a soul in there, but everyone's working really hard from home in order to coordinate to make the adjustments that we need for our business. So that was in place before, and we're able to engage it. I'm sure not every city or even state has been through that before, so I think we've got a little step up on that. And it's working really well. We set conference calls up at certain times of the day for everyone to check in and report in, and action is taken from there. We have a lot going on, a lot of changes, and having to adapt and adjust every single day, every single minute of the day as the news changes. We're doing our best to keep up. The good news is Copeland's has been around for over 36 years, and over the last 5 years, the to-go segment has been the strongest growing segment for us. So we've been focused on perfecting that in all the restaurants, and there couldn't be a better time to need that service than right now.
How do people get their delivery or pickup?
The smoothest transaction would be to go to copelandstogo.com, place your order, you can pay for your order, and then you give us the identification of your car, and then as your car drives up, we have curbside pickup, so we actually run out to your car with the food, hand it to you, and you take off. So it's basically as much of a Copeland's drive-through as you can possibly get. Now you can also call in and place your order as well, but you have to call it, we place it, we give you a time, and then you pick it up and pay for it when you come in. We're trying to understand the lifestyle that people are having to live right now and try to give them, a service that we believe that they need that's specialized to a Copeland's experience in your home. Hopefully, everyone sees that as a benefit, and we can keep our employees employed and our community served and safe, and that would be our goals.
So besides having takeout, obviously you're not having any sit-in diners, but are there other things that you've had to change or alter, maybe with the staff?
Yeah, the biggest problem is that we are doing about 20 to 25% of our total sales, which is really bad. Mm-hmm. And we're prepared for 100%. We're staffed for 100% of sales. So you can imagine what that does to our staffing needs for that kind of volume. So we are doing our best to try to maintain our employees, give a lot of them some hours rather than a couple of them a lot of hours, and just doing the very best we can to most importantly keep our employees safe, but then secondly try to provide them some income. Every restaurant that you know of, or I know of, is going to suffer during these times, financially suffer. And if we do an outlook on this for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and the longer the worse, it's going to have a tremendous financial implications on these businesses. These are times we haven't seen ever before, but I think, at Copeland's, we're fast, we're agile, we can move quickly. We're not that large of a company where we can still do that, and that's in our DNA to behave like that. So when something happens to us, you'll see us react. We'll work around the clock to react to situations so that we're best suited to service the guests. And in this case, I think we moved quickly, and we've got some great programs out there. So thank my team. My team's done a great job.
Amongst all this kind of hectic and scary times, do you see any sort of silver linings or anything positive that's coming out of this?
Well, I think we were moving pretty fast in our world, and I think this really puts a screeching halt on everything, whether it be time with families, time with children, employees even appreciating their jobs and how much they mean to them to have that income. And so I see a lot of feeling and emotion that'll come out of this where, people, I think that will be more caring and more understanding, and I think just take a breath and realize that life is happening very fast to us, and this allows us to appreciate it and slow down just a bit.
That was Al Copeland Jr. of Copeland's of New Orleans. What's the safest way to handle takeout food during the COVID-19 crisis? Stay tuned, and we'll answer that question when we come right back.
I'm Poppy Tooker, and you're listening to Louisiana Eats, edible content for Louisiana food lovers. Louisiana Eats is brought to you with support from Louisiana Fish Fry, breadings, boils, new air fry mixes, and more classic Louisiana dishes available everywhere. Let's all Louisiana. And from the St. Tammany Parish Tourist Commission. Located 40 minutes from New Orleans' French Quarter, the North Shore's Tammany Taste features the chefs and farmers, brewers and bakers of St. Tammany Parish's culinary scene. Despite the restrictions currently underway due to the COVID-19 outbreak, you can still support North Shore restaurants and restaurants everywhere by ordering takeout when available and buying gift certificates as an investment in our restaurant's culinary future. Visit LouisianaNorthShore.com to discover more. Louisiana's North Shore, where New Orleans has come to play and get away for more than a century. Here's this week's culinary quiz question, brought to you with support from Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. What's the safest way to handle takeout food during the COVID-19 crisis? According to multiple experts, including the FDA and others, we know the virus can live for 24 hours on cardboard, but it really loves plastic and styrofoam. It's been proven to live for up to 3 days on polypropylene. So, using gloves if possible, put the cooked food on plates and discard the gloves and the takeout containers and bags. Then don't forget to disinfect the countertop where they were sitting. Lastly, thoroughly reheat the food before eating it. Heat kills any virus that might have contaminated it, so have that delicious takeout dinner from your favorite restaurant and stay safe. And as always, keep washing those hands. It makes a difference. Your mother was right. I'm Poppy Tooker, and you're listening to Louisiana Eats. We've got time for one more interview this week. Who are we going to hear from, Joe?
Michael Gulotta, executive chef of MoPho and Maypop.
Michael Gulotta, another longtime friend of the show. Since MoPho opened in 2014, it's become an unofficial Louisiana Eats hangout. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
Yeah, we've had a lot of meetings there over crispy chicken wings. At a time when many New Orleans restaurants have maintained a reduced presence by going curbside or taking in online orders, Michael decided to shut down all of his business operations in their entirety.
Michael spoke with Maddie on March the 24th, 1 week after he'd closed his doors. She asked him to explain how he'd made that decision and why he elected not to offer takeout meals.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of layers to that. The two things that really hit us off the bat were, okay, if we switch to delivery, one, Maypop will never. Maypop's just not a pickup kind of place. It's based around tourism. And as soon as we saw all of those conventions being canceled and major events being moved later in the year or to the next year or canceled altogether, I mean, our numbers just dropped 70% overnight because it's completely based off tourism. And then with MoPho is all locals. So MoPho, we're like, okay, we could probably do some to-go business with locals, but that doesn't account for our servers. It doesn't account for the majority of our staff. We'd probably have to go down to just salaried employees, and even if we kept our salaried employees, we'd have to probably move them to hourly. Some of our servers and our hourly employees have been with us since we opened. You know, I have servers that have been with us since day one. Mm-hmm. How do I tell them to leave but keep my salaried employee who maybe I hired a year ago just because they wanted that management position? We've always been an employee-first company. Like when we opened our restaurants, we said, you know, no matter what, the servers get paid until we have to close the doors. So if the doors ever close, everyone gets paid. We're never going to be one of those restaurants that stops paying employees or asks them to work a month for free until we can get things in line, because if your restaurant's at that point, then you're not running it right anyway. We made the decision. We had enough money in the bank accounts to pay everyone up until that last Monday, put in all the hours up until the Monday that we closed the doors, and we made sure that everyone got their last paychecks, and we told them all to go file for unemployment and go file for Medicaid, because we offer insurance on a lot of people, and even the insurance companies are like, no, if you fire them, they're off your insurance. They're no longer a part of your company. So it's interesting. And also, you know, we decided to shut it down because a lot of our staff was uncomfortable with coming to work. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know who was sick. We had no way of telling who was sick. We felt that the cases were obviously going to skyrocket with Mardi Gras and just the way New Orleanians like to rub on each other as it is. We're very gregarious and huggy and kissy people. So we were like, okay, well, this is going to explode. A lot of our staff were calling in saying they were nervous to come to work. And we said, okay, well, then we should just let everyone go, not be people who are spreading the disease, let the medical side of everything kind of catch up. So let's wait and see what medical professionals say, how we can bring people back in safely. So, but I don't know where to go next with that. I don't know what's the next iteration of how restaurants run. And you know, my business partners and I talk a lot about, has the face of dining changed forever now? So even when we reopen, is every table going to have a bottle of Purell on it? You know, next to the sriracha and the hoisin and the pho spoons, will there be a bottle of Purell hand lotion? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's possible.
Is there anything that you specifically hope to see from the government as far as help or relief?
And that's the hard part, because obviously I have a lot of friends who are doing curbside and delivery, and they're trying to do it right, and they're wearing the masks and they're trying to be safe. Obviously, I want people to support them. I think that's important because some of them, like we were in a position where we have really cool landlords. We have a really, you know, our bank called us immediately and said, hey, you know, y'all have a 90-day deferment. Like we have been lucky because we've been on good terms with everyone we do business with. And so no one has come hounding us, and thankfully, like, so you see all these memes floating around being like, is it just me or was I this close to having all of my together before you know, coronavirus came around? And we actually were. Our restaurants were finally pulling out of the mire. I mean, like, because, you know, City Park Avenue had been torn up a year ago, and MoPho had lost 70% of its business, and it almost went out of business when that happened. And we had just gotten ourselves to a great point. We actually had enough money in our account to pay all of our staff and to make all of our accounts current, except for obviously our loans and our rent. That puts us in a really good position, but a lot of our friends are not in that position. You know, they have a lot of debt outstanding. They have to try to make it work to keep their business viable. And as far as what the government can do, God, you're caught in the middle of something that's insane. Obviously, the government doesn't want to bring the economy to a screeching halt. On the flip side of that, you know, my mother is almost 70 and gets considered at risk. So I'd also want people to stay home, and I don't want them to spread it around. It's very stressful because obviously the government's not going to tell you to completely shut down, because that opens a whole new can of worms for them to be like, oh, you can't, you know, they're not going to tell you to shut your business down. They're going to be like, well, you know, you can do curbside as sort of a loophole for themselves. Like, well, we never told you to shut down. It's like, yeah, but you took away any kind of viable business, especially when you take into account all of the people who are suddenly unemployed because they are service staff or they're wage line cooks. So what does the government do for us? During Katrina, a lot of us got FEMA contracts to feed people. And I don't know if we need FEMA contracts because this is different kind of, this isn't really disaster relief. I don't know what it is. But is there a way where we could make up for school lunches? Because a lot of kids get their meals, like we have to be honest, a lot of kids get their meals at school, and some of them don't get meals when they get home. So is there a way that we can, and I'm not looking to make a profit, I just want to put money in my staff's pockets and I want to feed people. So, and I want to keep food coming in from my purveyors, because suddenly my purveyors have nowhere to sell their product, and my farmer friends have nowhere to sell their produce and their meat. And so can the government give me a certain price per meal, and then I can work backwards to see how many staff I can keep on hand, and then how much I can buy from my farmer friends, and then I can make certain number of meals a day to either go to, and on top of that, I have to show that I'm, you know, being compliant with keeping my staff healthy, and then we can feed kids who aren't getting school lunches and elderly who can't leave their home. I mean, obviously this is pie in the sky situation.
So many layers
right.
to it.
But if I could do that and do curbside and to go, then maybe I could bring back almost my full staff. If I know that I'm putting out a certain amount of food a day, then maybe that would get me close back to where I was. But I don't know.
Is there anything that you have thought of or come up with or even would like to maybe implement to be prepared if this were to happen again?
I mean, it's so unprecedented. And the hardest part about all this is, I mean, humanity is all about sharing. And I mean, I build my world around sharing tables, bringing people together, and suddenly we can't do that anymore. Right. So how do we change to being impersonal people? It's a fundamental shift in the way we operate. So so there's just no more servers. You know what I mean? So if this happens again, then it's like, oh, all you people that came back after y'all are gone again, I don't know. So do I bring all my servers back in the hopes that nothing like this ever happens again? Or is it hopefully we can understand the virus better and, I don't know, are there air filters you can put in? Are there masks you can wear? Are there ways to make sure it doesn't spread? But I can't stop. I mean, everyone, especially in MoPho, everyone knows each other. My staff, like my guests are always hugging other guests when they come in the door, and they're hugging the staff members when they come in the door. And it's like, it's literally a virus that preys on the one thing that makes us feel comfortable and good is being able to share love and food and experiences, and now we can't do that. Yeah. So how do you account for that? I don't know.
Is there any sort of silver lining or positive thoughts in all of this kind of sadness and discord?
Well, I don't know. Hopefully, and I'd like to hope that it would bring everyone together for a common goal. I think a lot of the people who are staying home are doing so because it's not fun to be quarantined. Ask anybody. No one is having a good time right now, but they're doing it because I'm doing it for my mom. Like my kids get it. I mean, they're going to be fine. My kids are like horses. They'll just cough it out and run, keep running. We're doing it for our parents. We're doing it for the people that we know who are fighting, cancer and things like that. So I think we're doing all this out of love, but I don't know what the ultimate silver lining on that is. Hopefully it'll make us really look at our current culture and our ability. We don't realize our ability to travel so much because of airlines and things like that. I mean, maybe we have to reassess. Maybe we have to spend more time just in our location doing things at home, spending more time with family, spending more as opposed to just jet setting across the globe. I think definitely this past decade has been the jet set culture of just being able to go anywhere and do anything because flights are cheap and Airbnbs are cheap, and so you can be halfway across the world in a day. And I think that really, this virus really showed that weakness, that we think it's the coolest thing in the world, and it kind of is, but also maybe I guess we need to take a little time to reset and be at home and make a garden and take care of ourselves and not be so worried about being a consumer culture. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. If we can move away from being a consumer culture, then that would be the silver lining. Which is hard because I'm in restaurants and I want you to consume the food that I make and the drinks that I mix and the service that I give. But I think that's different than consuming large amounts of things that we don't need on a regular basis. I'm not sure. Is that too much rambling?
Perfect amount.
Okay.
That was Michael Gulotta of MoPho and Maypop in New Orleans. That's it for this week's edition of Louisiana Eats, edible content for Louisiana food lovers. If you're at loose ends these days, we have 10 years of Louisiana Eats editions available for pod and webcasting on poppytooker.com. That's where you'll find the compelling short film by Jonathan Evans and Marian discussed on today's show, along with other videos and recipes. You can even learn how to make soup dumplings for Michael Gulotta. That'll keep you busy. Louisiana Eats is made possible with major support from Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, Louisiana Fish Fry, Camellia Brand Beans, and the St. Tammany Tourist Commission. Additional support for Louisiana Eats is provided by the Dickie Brennan and Company family of restaurants. E-gift cards are available through all the restaurants' websites, as well as through FrenchQuarterDining.com. Please remember that during the COVID-19 crisis, restaurants need our support more than ever. Consider takeout and delivery from our generous sponsors. Big thanks to senior producer Joe Schreiner and special projects manager Reggie Morris. and to our business manager and social media maven, Maddie Mullidew, who also served as intrepid field reporter for our COVID-19 coverage, along with Jonathan Evans and Marian Gay for providing the audio. Catch up with us anytime on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook too. Louisiana Eats is a production of Poppy Tooker Broadcasting.